everyone. Welcome to our 23rd installment of Lunch with Eaters. My name is April Hull, and I'm here representing the UCI Alumni Association. This series is brought to our Anteater community every other month, and it's a lunch and learn program built specifically for our Anteaters and Friends community. This series started back during the beginning of COVID, and we have since had 22 amazing programs featuring our Anteater speakers. If you'd like to check out our past Lunch with Eaters programs, feel free to visit our UCI Alumni YouTube page for our past videos. We can go ahead and drop the chat for that playlist, or drop the link for that playlist in the chat for you all to view on your own time. Throughout the presentation, if you have any questions for our featured speaker, feel free to drop your questions in the Q&A feature or the Q&A function. We'll try to get to your questions throughout the program or towards the end of the program. And with that, I'd like to introduce our guest speaker, Kristie Williams-Yowell, class of 05 from the School of Humanities. A former university communications professional and fundraiser, Christy created the mostly vegan, a veggie-centric food blog in 2017 to share her love of plant-based cooking. Her recipes have been shared in multiple online publications, and now as a full-time stay-at-home mom, she shares her daily #mom meals on social media to highlight how accessible, uncomplicated, and downright delicious eating a plant-based diet can be. Now let's give Christy a warm welcome.
Thank you.
Welcome, Christy. We're so excited to feature you today and see your food demonstration. Before we jump
here,
we're happy to have you. Before we jump into the food demonstration, I want to chat a little bit about your UCI experience. If you heard from the bio, not only was Christy a graduate of UCI from class of 05, but she also worked at UCI as an employee for several years. So throughout your time at UCI, do you have a favorite memory that you can share with us?
Wow. I mean, I spent a good almost 15 years of my life I was a commuter student, so making the same commute every day. And I even worked at the Starbucks at Bison in California when I was an undergrad. So my whole life revolved around UCI for a very long time. My dad is also an alum. And there's so many things, so many fond memories. One of the most memorable ones, I was a staff member when former President Obama came to speak at Angel Stadium. Can't really get any better than that. That was awesome. I have so many friendships from people that I worked with, but also other undergrads that I still keep in contact with. So too many things. Just a great overall experience. I will always have a special place in my heart for UCI.
Well, that's wonderful to hear, and we're so happy to welcome you back to UCI and have you featured as our guest speaker today. And now, so we want to talk a little bit about your current journey now and how you got to where you are. Can you share a little bit about when and how you started your plant-based cooking journey, and also how you got started with the Mostly Vegan?
Yeah, so I've always been into cooking, not always vegan cooking. When I first met my husband, I think the first thing I made him was steak tacos and a roast chicken. And I think at some point I just started, I'd been a vegetarian when I was younger for a good almost 10 years, and then went back to eating everything, and then just sort of wasn't into it anymore. And because I was so into cooking and always liked being in the kitchen, I really got into trying, vegan cooking and what options are out there for, satisfying your palate when your options are much more limited. And then I realized I was really excited about creating my own recipes, not just following other people's recipes. And I've been at UCI for almost 10 years working, and I kind of had lost the luster for it. And my husband was very supportive. So I, stepped away and decided to just work on a blog, and which I had started while I was it was a weekend thing that I did during my free time. This was a while ago. So this was, before TikTok, before everything was videos. This was with a camera, my tripod over food, teaching myself how to take food photos, which was very interesting. And I started doing some work for like a local juice brand, and I photographed their stuff for social media, and just got better at it. And my blog was starting to take off, but then I got pregnant with my son, and so that was 5 years ago. He'll be 5 in 2 weeks. So it's just not possible for me to do the same level of food photography that I was doing before with a little kid in the house. And so I don't know that I'll ever fully go back to it, but I do, still cook at home every single night. I share on my Instagram my mom meals, which, kind of like in the style of like a 30-minute meal where it's just very easy and accessible for everyone. And, ingredients you can get anywhere, but it's healthy, but also just really satisfying. My husband eats everything. He eats meat, but he eats basically vegan 5 days a week during the week. He really only eats meat when we go out to eat now. So he's embraced it. And my son is a vegetarian. He eats cheese and eggs and stuff, but so it's just something I'm passionate about. I'm very lucky. I have a lot of people in my life who are like my mother-in-law is vegan, and I have a lot of friends and family who are into it. So yeah, it's just sort of something that I enjoy, and luckily enough, a decent amount of people like to see what I have to share online. So my blog, even though it's been sort of dormant for 5 years, I keep it going. I make enough money off of the few little poultry ads I have on there just to like pay my hosting fees. So I'm not sure if I'll ever take it down. But yeah, so I'm excited to be here today to share with you guys a couple veggie recipes that are, perfect for the holidays or just any weeknight meal. So.
Well, perfect. Thanks so much for sharing that. Now I'm going to go ahead and transition the floor over to you, and you can show us what we have on our menu today and walk us through that process.
Okay, great. So we're doing 2 dishes today. The first one is going to be cauliflower steak. I'm going to grab my knife. And then we're doing a sweet potato dish. So I'm going to start, we got to get the veggies in the oven because they do have to roast for about 30 minutes. So I just have a big old cauliflower here. Try and get, if you're making steaks, you want to get the biggest one you can find. I've just sort of trimmed the green on the bottom off. I'm going to start by cutting it right in the center. And then I'm going to cut out from the center about 1 inch with cauliflower steak. So this is going to be plenty for like 2 to 3 adults. If you're making this, like if you want to do this, this is actually, I made cauliflower steaks as the vegetarian main for Christmas Eve last year. And you definitely want to get 2 cauliflowers if you're doing it, for 4 to 5 people or 4 to 6 people, because you're going to have sort of the drop off of the florets and it's not going to stay together very well. But we're going to see how many we can get that are going to stay together out of this one. And then I always keep the leftover florets because we will make that later in the week with something. We've been eating cauliflower on repeat this week as I practice timing for this. So I'm going to put the cauliflower steaks on my parchment lined baking sheet. I do want to note that this is like an extra large baking sheet. So it fills the entire width of the oven. And I use this like every single night over a more traditional sized one. I don't always make that many veggies, but when you're roasting veggies, you really want to make sure that they're not too close because then they're just going to steam on the pan together and you're not going to get the caramelization and the browning that you want. So I always use that. And then if you're cooking for a crowd, you definitely need the bigger one. And then I always use parchment paper because small meals, I don't like a lot of cleanup. So with the sweet potato, I'm cutting off the ends and then I'm just going to cut it down the center. So kind of a tough one. You could also do rounds. I just like the look of wedges. So that's what we're going to do today. So I cut it down the center and then I'm going to cut it in half like this. I don't know if you guys didn't even check the angle of this one, but hopefully you can get slightly better angle over here. Sweet potatoes, I don't know, they're always tricky. I feel like they need a lot more time than you usually think to cook. So I like to cut them again so that they're more quartered, just so they get really cooked through. And then you just get more flavor because there's more browning on more surface area. So, what's wrong? We can't go wrong with that. So I'm gonna cut these. So we've got like 8 wedges here. We're going to add those to our pan. And then I'm just going to quickly, we're going to do very quick cleanup today, just so I have cooking space. I'll be cleaning out my sink after we're done. And then the easiest way to do this would just be to toss everything with the olive oil, and then we're going to add maple syrup to the sweet potatoes as well. But I have started basting the things because my 5-year-old has recently, like, he wants to be involved in making dinner. So letting him do this and get to baste everything is a lot more fun for him and less messy hands. So I'm going to baste very generously with olive oil. I didn't measure this. It's probably 2 to 3 tablespoons. So we're going to baste each side. We're going to get the sweet potatoes also, just really quickly. So we're just going to really simply season the cauliflower steaks. We're just doing salt and pepper and the olive oil. The sweet potatoes, I'm going to add some maple syrup and then red pepper flakes to them. I think sweet potatoes are so sweet. So it's kind of like, why are you adding maple syrup? But it helps them caramelize a little more. Get my salt. And then the red pepper flakes sort of counteract that sweetness, and also just adds, you know, some color and texture. And I like spicy things. If you don't like spicy, you know, leave it out, obviously. Just generously salting everything. And then we're going to flip. Should have added them. I'm gonna add the maple syrup now to the sweet potatoes. Okay, get that away. We'll flip our cauliflower steaks. And cauliflower, I mean, I think a lot of people just think of it as very bland, but when it's roasted, I just think it is so delicious. And because you do these thick steaks, it has this great, I don't want to say meaty texture, but it's a meaty texture. You know, you have to use a fork and knife to eat it, and it's really satisfying to eat. Thing like that. So I love them. And I love when they get brown and they kind of get like this smokiness to them. Ideally, in a perfect world, we get pepper. I would brown the cauliflower steaks in a pan on the stovetop first, because then you really like build in that flavor and get more of that smokiness. On a weeknight, you know, it's probably not as time effective. It's a lot more dishes. If you're doing it for the holidays and you have time, you know, you might want to do that. But again, I know like space on a stovetop is limited at the holidays. So if they're still going to be really good this way. And then where are my red pepper flakes? Again, I'm not measuring this. I just sort of sprinkle them on generously. You guys can see. So let me just show you what everything looks like now that it's on the pan. Sorry, I don't want to make anyone dizzy. Get these out of the way. And I'm just going to make sure that this cauliflower steak side down, make sure the wedges are sort of spread out again so they don't steam. And then we'll get those in the oven. And the oven is set, it's been preheating, it's set to 425. 425 is what I always roast veggies at. I'm setting this for 20 minutes. Again, when I roast veggies, I always do generally 20 minutes of just undisturbed roasting time before I check them or flip them. Make sure I start this. Because you just don't want to open the oven and let out all that steam, and then you don't get that browning that you really want. So now we have that, and now we're going to make the first of our 2 sauces. So I'm going to do the cashew lime crema first, which is going on our sweet potato wedges. So I'm going to grab my blender. I have a Vitamix that I use literally like every single day. So I have a green smoothie almost every single day for lunch, and I cannot live without this thing. That's one thing I think if you're thinking about, well, I want to eat more plant-based, what kind of kitchen appliances do Should I invest in a blender? For sure, a really good blender. It'll last you forever. I'm gonna plug this in and get my top.
Christy, we got a great question in
Yeah.
the Q&A for you.
Okay.
So this is from Gary's. He said, we are vegans, but also on a low salt diet. What
Okay.
seasonings would you use on this dish other than salt?
I would probably just like pack on the herbs. There's a great seasoning that I have recently started using. It's the Bragg's brand organic 24 herbs and spices, no salt. This is great. Like you put this on something, you can use no salt or a lot less salt. It just builds a lot of flavor. Also with the sauce we're gonna do, that'll add flavor. I'm putting lime zest in this, and anything when you want to cut back on salt, you just need to make sure there's acid in there to sort of give you that savoriness too. So I'm not sure, hopefully that's helpful. So in here I have a cup of cashews that have been soaking for about an hour in just some filtered water. You can soak them overnight. You can pour boiling water over them and then rinse them out, or you can just do it for like an hour in the fridge, which is what I usually do. You can get away with not soaking them, but I just think it's easier to blend them up once they've been soaked and they're just softer and easier to work with. I'm going to pour out this water though, and then add some fresh water. If you're nut free, you do not have to use cashews in this dish. My original recipe from years ago on my blog for this, I used sunflower seeds. Soak those as well. They're just a little harder to get blended, but the taste, they're both very neutral tasting nuts. I should mention these are both like do not use roasted nuts in your cashew cream or your sunflower seed cream. You just want a very neutral flavor. So we have the cashews in here, and then I'm going to add like 3/4 of a cup of water. Start half a cup. It's actually good. You don't want them completely covered in water because then it's going to be too runny. And then I'm going to add a tablespoon of apple cider vinegar. This is just also the Bragg brand, organic, raw, unfiltered apple cider vinegar. So what I'm doing here, I'm basically making my base cashew cream, and I make a batch of this like 1 to 2 times a week, every single week. The reason I don't just make a sauce like from scratch and add in all the lime zest and stuff that I'm going to do in this particular version is because you really need like the apple cider vinegar in it to cut sort of the blandness of the cashews. It doesn't taste vinegary, it doesn't taste sour, it just adds a little extra to it that you don't know what it is, but it just tastes better. So then I'm doing a 1/2 teaspoon of sea salt. And that's it. And then we're going to blend it up. So pardon the noise for a second. I'm starting in a low. Does need to go for just a little. Actually, that looks pretty good. It's pretty smooth.
Hey, Christy, we got a couple more questions in the chat.
Sure.
How much apple cider vinegar did you add?
Oh, sorry, a tablespoon. I had a tablespoon. So a cup of cashews, a tablespoon of apple cider vinegar.
Perfect. And then we also have another question. To reduce trash, could we skip the parchment paper?
You could, and I know it's not very low waste using the parchment paper. You definitely could. I would oil your sheet pan first, for sure. And we are going to flip these after 20 minutes. And so if you're not using parchment, you definitely want to check just for things sticking more regularly. But yeah, I totally get not wanting to use parchment. I know it's that and plastic bags are unfortunately sort of something we could all cut back on. You know what? I'm going to add a little bit more water to this. It's a little too thick. And we're going to just let it go a little bit longer. So I probably just added like another 2 tablespoons of water. So I think I didn't add enough before. So we're talking like 1 cup cashews and like 3/4 cups water. See if that's a little better. So that's much better. So this sauce, as I said, like I make this every week, and it's basically the perfect blank slate for making a myriad of sauces. So you can add anything to it. I add like a buffalo sauce to it, or just, I don't know if anyone tried the dill seasoning that they had over the summer from Trader Joe's. I put that in here. It was basically like a cheater easy ranch dip. It's delicious. You can add all sorts of stuff to it, and it's so good. And it's, you know, the same flavor you get if you were doing like a sour cream dip or a mayo dip, but just plant-based. And yeah, so, okay. So the next thing we're going to add is lime zest. I'm going to get my zester. I love this thing. This is from Sur La Table microplane. I use it all the time. I love adding fresh citrus to things. So we're just gonna, this is about half of the cashew cream. I'll get the rest out later, and I'll put that in the fridge for later in the week, and I'll use it in other sauces. And I'm just gonna zest the lime zest right into the sauce. Smells so good. Gosh, love that fresh lime citrusy scent. So refreshing. Okay. Basically the whole lime. And then let me actually get this out of the way. And the next thing I'm going to add is some agave nectar. So you could use any sweetener you like. Obviously honey is not vegan, but if you eat honey and you liked it, you could add just some honey to this. You could add maple syrup. It is going to have a little bit more of that maple flavor, which I don't really like in this. I like just sort of the more neutral, clean taste of the agave nectar. They're all sugar. You could probably just add, you know, some granulated sugar to it, but I like the agave. I don't really measure this. I kind of start with a couple drops, and then I stir it, and then I taste as I go. You don't need a lot. What you really want, it's just to sort of balance it out. I don't know, it's better with it, I think. So now you can see we have sort of a very horrible consistency, because we are going to drizzle this over the sweet potatoes when they're done. Let me taste this. Good. Okay, I'm going to put this in the fridge because the cashew sauces I do think are better when they're chilled, and it's pretty cold anyways because the cashews, I got them right out of the fridge, but I'm just going to put it in the fridge while we prep everything else. And then you should know, if you're using cashew cream for anything, once you do put it in the fridge for a prolonged period of time, it's going to thicken up a lot and set almost. So whenever I'm using it at dinner or other meals, I'll just take it out of the fridge like 10-15 minutes beforehand and just sort of let it come to room temperature. And then every once in a while, I have to thin it with some water and just whisk it to get it back to that pourable consistency that we want. So on to the, how are we doing on time? Okay, on to our next recipe. We're going to make our pomegranate chimichurri. So this is basically a regular chimichurri, but we're using pomegranate molasses instead of our or instead of red wine vinegar, which you would see in a more classic chimichurri recipe. So I'm starting with, let me rinse my knife. I'm starting with a handful each of cilantro and flat leaf parsley. They're roughly destemmed. If you were making this in the blender, I wouldn't take the stems off. I just blend it all up. But I don't like making chimichurri in the blender because it looks more like a pesto. And chimichurri, you really want that you want the texture in the sauce. And so I like to chop it up. And so it's like a handful. It's basically 1 cup loosely packed of both beefs. And first I'm going to add my olive oil and our secret ingredient to make it pomegranate molasses. To make it a pomegranate chimichurri is pomegranate molasses. I also have pomegranate seeds that we're going to drizzle on top of the cauliflower when we plate them. But pomegranate molasses, I mean, I bought this at Whole Foods. They had 2 different brands to choose from there. When I had a lot more time on my hands, I would make my own pomegranate molasses just by buying pomegranate juice and simmering it on the stovetop for about an hour at like medium low heat. That's the best, and till it got to, like a syrupy consistency, because there's no added sugar. It's a very clean, just pure pomegranate taste. This works fine for our purposes here, so we're going to use that. Let me get my smaller measuring cup. So we're going to start with a 1/2 cup of organic extra virgin olive oil. I feel sort of like I'm an ad for the Bragg brand right now, but that's the brand of my olive oil in case anyone was interested. I really like this one. Use this or like California Olive Branch. I like theirs too. Get this here, away. And we're going to add our pomegranate molasses. That was a 1/2 cup of olive oil and then 2 tablespoons of the pomegranate molasses. Again, this is just substituting for red wine vinegar. Then I'm going to add couple generous pinches of sea salt. Again, just limit if you can't have it. What am I looking for? I'm looking for my red pepper flakes, and then I'm going to do red pepper flakes in here too. So pretty generous with those as well. Good for the good spicy sauce. And I think the spiciness goes well with sort of the tang of the pomegranate molasses. And then I have 2 garlic cloves here. I might not add all of both of these because one is really big and we don't want it to be too garlicky. But if you like garlic, just add more. I'm just going to roughly chop these. Oops. A little bit smaller. This is like a very earthy, sauce. So it does not need to be perfect. You don't need to get like your mincer out or anything for your garlic. Big chunks are fine. Okay, and then I'm going to do my parsley and my cilantro. I'm just sort of going to do these together. Just going to like pile them on top of each other. Again, this is flat leaf parsley, Italian parsley, not curly parsley. Just gonna feel like I'm going a little too fast now because we still have some time left on our veggies. So if you guys have more questions, please ask me. I'll try to answer them as best I can.
Still waiting for some questions to come in. But Christy, how about you share with us any tips about transitioning to a plant-based diet? What would you recommend for those that are interested, and how accessible, how, especially with you being, busy with your son, how can you balance a plant-based diet with a busy lifestyle as well?
Right. So for me at this point, this is just how we eat. It doesn't, in my opinion, take any more effort than eating a meat-based diet or, being an omnivore. I'm just going to whisk this up before I add the herbs. I think the main thing is find stuff that you really like. At the end of the day, I think the majority of people who do cook at home, you're eating a lot of the same meals on a weekly basis, just for ease and, economy, or it's more economical. So find a few dishes that you really like, that are your go-tos, and then start riffing on those. So I'm making these cauliflower steaks, and then I had all these leftover florets. So I will probably make those, probably not Saturday night, but maybe Sunday night. I'll toss those in olive oil and then curry powder and roast them and then serve them over. I made a big pot of black beans earlier in the week, and I'll serve them with the black beans and, maybe I like to roast red peppers with cauliflower. I'll do some of that. And so it's a dish that I like, but then I'm, taking another spin on it to keep the flavors fresh, and you're not eating the same, because, it also gets sort of monotonous to eat the same things all the time. So this is our chimichurri. I might add, can't see it, messy table now. I might add a little bit more olive oil to it, just because it's a lot of herbs and I don't want it to be too thick. Just add a little bit. And then I'm going to taste test it. But also in terms of, getting into more plant-based eating, it's okay to rely on convenience things. I don't know how many veggie burgers I've tried making from scratch. They're all good, but they are so much work, so much work. And I, found a brand of veggie burgers that I can buy at Sprouts that I really like, and I just make those now. So you don't have to do everything from scratch. You don't have to kill yourself to, feel like you're eating a perfect plant-based diet. And I think that's what a lot of people get caught in that trap. It's very easy to think, oh, I have to do this the right way, or there is a right way. There's not really a right way. I think in general, just eating more vegetables is a good thing. So whatever little thing you can do is helpful for your health and for the environment. So I'm going to taste this.
And on that note, we have a couple questions in the Q&A about brands you would recommend for plant-based foods or vegan foods, and specifically that veggie burger brand that you mentioned.
Oh, yes. What is it called? Sorry, my husband is here. I'm blanking on the name. Oh, it's the Hillary Eats Well brand. So they do, I specifically like their black bean burger, but I'll make a salad for lunch and put a veggie burger on top of it. That's a mom meal that I've shared a ton of times, and it's so good. They do a black bean burger that I love, and then an adzuki bean burger that I really like. I like their burgers because they stay really firm. They don't sort of fall apart as much and get mushy when you eat them on a hamburger bun with sauces. They keep their texture, which I like, and then the flavor is just really good. So I like those. I'm trying to think. I don't do boxed vegan mac and cheese or anything like that. I don't like that fake cheese flavor. So I'm gonna check. Sorry, I'll get back to those questions, but I'm gonna flip the veggies now, and they're gonna go for 10 more minutes. Well, this out of the way, just so you guys can see the veggies. They're looking pretty good. Oops. Looking starting to brown. They'll be more browned, obviously, on the side that we flip them to. Oops. Oh, see, we just had a cauliflower steak fall apart there. So, you know, cauliflower florets we're gonna have with our steak. We had two steaks stay intact. And then I'm gonna use my tongs to flip the sweet potatoes. So yeah, if people have their heart set on the steaks, definitely buy more cauliflower, cut more of those center sections just to ensure that they stay together. But I mentioned that I made these for Thanksgiving last year, and I did them not with the chimichurri. I had them just over mashed potatoes, and then I have a vegan gravy recipe on my blog, and I had them with the gravy. It was really good. I highly recommend it. There's lots of good vegan gravies out there, but mine is pretty simple and I like it, so it's worth checking out. But going back to, I'm gonna do that 10 more minutes. Sorry, guys. I might, I'm just gonna crank up the temperature a little, just in case we run out of time and we need to pull those out. I just want them to look nice and browned. I just cranked it up to 450. I'll leave this stuff over here. Let's see, what other questions? Are there any other questions, other brands that I like? Like I was saying, I don't really do vegan cheeses. It's not my thing. I make a cashew cheese with the pureed cashews that I like, but I don't really like the fake tasting cheeses. Like I don't even do like the American cheese ones. I think some of them are okay. It's just sort of off-putting to me, in the same way that a lot of normal cheese at this point is off-putting to me. I'm trying to think of other stuff. Steph, can you think of any stuff that we buy all the time? I said that I've made a big pot of beans. I use a lot of canned beans. Like I love, like any store brand, I buy the low sodium ones. It's a really good way to beef up any meal, adding seasonings to it. Like I'll do pinto beans and I'll add like molasses to it and some maple syrup and like chipotle peppers and adobo, and sort of do my own like barbecue simmered beans. And so there's all sorts of stuff like that. And I think the main thing is you just got to get in the kitchen and start experimenting, because you're not going to really learn what you like until you start trying a lot of things. And I didn't really know what I liked. So I've made so many bad things, as like we all have, everybody. You have so many kitchen fails. We only show the good things. But that's how you learn, you know, what tastes you prefer, and you try new things. So just get in there and start trying things. There are so many amazing plant-based recipe websites out there, food bloggers, that there's no, and even now just general food bloggers do, you know, all the meatless Mondays and everything. So there's so many options out there of places to get inspiration. So.
Great, thanks for sharing. So this other question comes in from Marilyn, and she's asking if you have any recommendations on vegan restaurants in Orange County.
We don't really do that many, like eat at purely vegan restaurants, only because we don't eat out that much. So when we do eat out, my husband sort of wants to not eat vegan. That's his time to like get a burger or something. I do really like at the camp, what is it called? Do you know what that one is called, Zach? What is it, the camp? It's been there forever. I'm trying to think of it. They do some really good. They were like the fried avocado food tacos. That was a food truck originally. They were like on the Great Food Truck Race. And huh? No, Seabird's Kitchen. I really like Seabird's. They have a Long Beach location now too. They do a lot of like really interesting things that I think are not just like, you know, a big salad or something. You know, I've eaten at Native Foods is great. I mean, it's if you need a quick lunch. It's in terms of like, I'd rather just make it at home. But I think like there's so many options. And the thing is, so many regular restaurants just have vegan stuff. It's not even purposely vegan now. You just sort of have to do your checking on the menu if they're sort of accidentally vegan items. You know, when we go out, we love to order a bunch of appetizers as opposed to a main and sort of just try all the veggie options that are on a menu. And then I think you just get, it's so much more interesting of a meal because it's not just one big plate of, you know, one thing. You get all these different things you can try and you can mix things together. So getting a lot of different veggie appetizers is sort of what we do instead of going to like a purely vegan restaurant. So we're eating more plant-based, more vegetarian when we go out than just, you know, purely vegan. But you can always ask for modifications. Places are so happy to do it now. So
Great. And just to add to that, one of our attendees on phone said Hiro Nori has an amazing. So if you're not familiar, Hiro Nori is a ramen shop. There's a couple locations in Irvine and one in Long Beach, and they also have a wonderful vegan option.
Oh, nice. I'll have to check that out.
And so another question while we're waiting for the veggies. So this comes from Judith. She said she has to restrict her sugar intake.
Okay.
Any good substitutes that you would recommend?
Oh, like if we're talking, because I was using maple syrup and stuff. I mean, veggies are so sweet, a lot of them on their own. So if you don't want to add like the maple syrup to the sweet potatoes, you don't have to do that. Just leave it out. I'm the kind of person growing up, I had like a sweetened yogurt every single day given to me in my lunch. And now I take a bite of a sweetened yogurt, be it my son's or, you know, a vegan one. And I can't even do it because my palate as I've gotten older leans so much more salty. So I think just incrementally, if you need to watch sugar, just start leaving it out, add in other seasonings and spices. And a lot of times your palate just changes and you don't feel the need to have it in as much. I do a lot of like vegan baking. I do a lot of scones and stuff like that. I put very little sugar in them because I'm adding other things, fresh fruit, like blueberries and stuff like that. And that can always, it's, still sugar, more natural sugar. And obviously you get the fiber. So just, stuff like that. And just having like a lot of recipes, like if I see a muffin recipe I want to try, I generally just half the amount of sugar that it's called for. I might add some pureed like apple or something or sweet potato to give it a little more natural sweetness. But I'm cognizant of that too. Like you don't want all these added sugars. I don't buy a lot of processed food. So right there, you're just like getting away from getting all that added sugar.
Great, thanks for sharing. So one of our attendees, Soft Foam, gave some really great suggestions on other, vegan food bloggers and folks on YouTube. One is Young Men Cooking and the Miyoko Shinner. So on that note, do you have any other recommended food blogs that you love to browse through, or other, vegan cooks that you would recommend that they can find online?
Yeah, I mean, I like Minimalist Bakers, one who's been around forever. They now do not purely, not even vegetarian cooking. I think they do fish and stuff sometimes, but they have a whole encyclopedia of recipes that they've been doing for years. Most of the people I follow now that I'm really into are not vegan. They just are food bloggers. And like I said, it's just so much more mainstream now. So they're generally doing veggie dedicated things on a regular basis. So I think the mentality of like, unless you're someone who's very like a vegan warrior where you are not wearing leather shoes, yeah, that's great. I haven't, I'm not saying anything bad about it, but where you're the kind of person who is only vegan, like you would never even have a car with leather seats or something like that, that you need somebody who is a dedicated vegan to follow. There's so many other options out there in terms of the way people are cooking. I think everyone is woken up to the fact that eating a more plant-based diet is healthier all around. And so don't limit yourself to just finding the vegan ones, I think is what I'm trying to say. Well, I have a minute because these are almost done. I'm just going to slice up some green onions to put on top of the sweet potatoes as well. And I think this kind of got pushed down so you guys can't see. I'm going to cut these on the bias just to make them sort of look prettier. And very thin, we're kind of just going to sprinkle these on top. You don't want like a big oniony bite. I only need like one green onion. I feel like I'm not cutting these well. It's like pressure of cutting on camera. I'm like, where did my knife skills go? Okay, that's probably enough. Let me get these out of the way. And I'm going to need this platter for plating, so I'm just going to stick my cauliflower on my cutting board and move it out of the way. Lime out of here. Put green onions, fish. Move this out of the way. Let's check. 10 seconds left. I think we can call it. I'm going to take them out. So pretty. Turn my oven off. These look so pretty. I mean, I just love the mix of the white. Like, it's just so perfect for the holidays or just fall, you know, doing the sweet potatoes. You can see everything is nice and brown now. We have, you know, one steak that didn't make it, but it'll still taste really good. That's the important part. Get my spatula. Okay. So we're just gonna put these ones over to the side. And then our other steak. Let's see, nice caramelization there from the maple syrup. They're really nice and brown on that side. So I mentioned at the beginning, this is probably the amount of food I would make for my husband and I to have for a dinner on a weeknight. If we weren't having anything else with it, like if I wasn't supplementing with beans or any kind of bread or rice or something, which I usually do. So we might not, I probably wouldn't buy such a large sweet potato for the two of us. And I would just use like one cauliflower steak each. Because when you're just eating veggies, even if you're eating grains and stuff with it, you generally need more food to feel full. That's one thing we've found. Or else, you know, you're going to be hungry like an hour later. So probably make more than you think when you're starting out, just to feel satisfied. Until you figure out like the amounts that you really want and need. And then, oh, I got to get my capsule lime cream out of the fridge. These. And I need some spoons. So first I'll do the chimichurri. But yeah, we would eat probably with this, like I would probably do the steaks over some like steamed brown rice, maybe some beans thrown in there, or that's another thing, like I don't eat fake meat. I have nothing against it. I just don't like the flavor of it. I tried a Beyond Burger once and did not sit well with me. So that's why I like just a bean burger. I'm always sad now when I go to places and it's like the full on fake meat and not just like a traditional bean burger, because I just like that better. So we just eat a lot of like very pure beans, and we eat tofu. I love searing tofu and doing sauces with that. And then we're gonna put our green onions on top. And one thing, I should have cut up some more cilantro to put on top of the sweet potatoes, because that's actually really good too. Some freshly chopped cilantro. We're just gonna drizzle The green onions on there. Both of these, like, they can be mains or they can be side dishes. Like, that's the great thing about cooking with veggies. Like, there are no rules. It's whatever. Oh, I'm putting these on the cauliflower for our pomegranate chimichurri. And there we go. I hope you guys this one. Everything plated up. Let's see. Really good. Looks pretty good, right? Very colorful.
That looks delicious. Oh my goodness. Thank you. Oh, we have a thumbs up reaction on the Zoom. I love it. Great. Well, that was fantastic, Kristie. Thanks so much for walking us through that.
Well, thank you guys for having me. I'm so happy to do it. And I love talking about food. So who does it? Like, food is like one of the great equalizers, I think. Like, we all need it to survive, and we all like to eat the good stuff. So if I can encourage anyone else to try eating more this way, I'm happy to be involved in that. So
well, thanks for that. There is one more question that came into the chat a few minutes ago I want to share with you. And we can just do that. And maybe one other question, if anyone has a question, we can take a couple more before we wrap up. But this one actually has to do in regards to your son. And have you had to address the vegetarian vegan options from the school district breakfasts and lunches provided?
So as I said, he's a vegetarian. His favorite food is cheese pizza. Like, let's get real. He's a 5-year-old. But he eats, also really likes eggs. Like, he'll have like an egg and cheese bagel for breakfast in the morning. But he also has oatmeal and vegan oatmeal pancakes that I make. We don't do the school lunches. So he just started TK, and at his school, they do offer, the school lunches. We just don't do them because they only have one vegetarian option a week. And we're not trying to keep him from eating meat. We've told him, if you want to try it, he's tried little pieces of fish before. He doesn't show any interest at this point in eating it. And we never wanted to give it to him when he was little, because we sort of wanted him to just be old enough to be cognizant and aware of what he was eating, so he could make the choice if he wanted to have a hamburger. So yeah, he just eats at home. And then when we go out, like any little kid, we have to find a place that has a grilled cheese or pizza or a quesadilla. And, he'll eat other veggies. Like, he likes avocado and he loves apples and bananas and mangoes and pears. But it's still getting him to eat. He would never eat a piece of steamed broccoli. He wouldn't eat a piece of roasted broccoli. So we kind of have to sneak it in. He doesn't like mac and cheese, but I make him whole wheat like noodles. And then the sauce, he has this like almost every other night, is pureed chickpeas with just some salt added to it. No seasoning. If I add garlic or anything, he won't eat it. But so he gets protein that way. He basically will eat any kind of bean you put in front of him. So that's good. But yeah, it's sort of coming up with creative ways to give them things. Like, he won't eat just a salad, but he'll still eat like a pureed soup, like sort of like what you give him when they're a baby. He'll eat that. So I'll sneak in lentils and something like that. But yeah, it's tough. It's not any easier if your kid eats meat, if they eat you have one of those unicorn kids that eats everything. I'm so jealous of you because it would make life so much easier. But yeah, you just have to be creative, and it is a bummer having to make a lunch every day. So he basically gets like a little pita bread from Trader Joe's that we just do pizza sauce and cheese on. And then he gets apple and maybe some like granola bar balls, or, those little made good granola balls, or like sweet potato puffs. He'll eat those. We'll put those in his lunch. But yeah, it's tough. I have no good answer for that. Kids are a pain. And I remember being picky when I was little. I would not have probably eaten anything like this either. It wasn't until I got older that I started really getting into veggies. Yeah, I know, it sucks.
Yeah, well, thanks for sharing that. And there's one final question before you wrap up. This is from Diane, and she wanted to get your 2 favorite brands of burgers again. I think she missed that earlier.
Oh yeah. It's just the one brand. It's called Hillary Eats Well. They have them at Whole Foods. They have them at Sprouts. I think they have them like at Ralph's. So they have them pretty much everywhere. Highly recommend those. If you can find them on sale at Sprouts, they're like a great deal. And yeah, we eat them a lot. They're really good.
Great.
Yeah, making a bean burger at home is great, but it's way too much work. I don't need to get the food processor out to have a burger. So
yeah, we all appreciate those shortcuts, right? Okay, great. Well, I think that wraps up all of our questions from the Q&A. So just want to do, just thank you again for joining us today, volunteering your time to share these wonderful recipes with our Anteater community. And to our Anteaters, thanks again for logging on and joining us during your lunch. We're hoping you can join us for future Lunch with Eater sessions, and enjoy the rest of your day, everyone. Thank you so much.
bye.
Bye.
Thank you.